A mochi moment from Tara, who writes, "For years, all my doctor said was eat less and move more, which never worked. But you know what does? The simple eating tips from my nutritionist at Mochi. And after losing over 30 pounds, I can say you're not just another GLP-1 source. You're a life source." Thanks, Tara. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Tara is a Mochi member compensated for her story.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The three of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scary. Before we get into this week's episode, I want to say a special thanks to our new Patreon subscribers who are Mark Wells, Lizzie Helen, Erica Sumville, Rebecca N, Jen Caddick, Jane Blackhurst, Diane, Ann Kusunla, Anya Davis, Caitlin Monaghan and Raj Badiani. Thank you so much for signing up to the show's Patreon. It really does mean a lot. If this is something you're interested in, you can find the link in this episode's show notes where there is exclusive Patreon only scary episodes, and another one will be out on Friday. This episode is a little bit different to all the others I've put on the main episodes. Going forward, I'll be scattering in some of these famous paranormal cases from the past, bringing them back to life in true scary fashion. I already feel like I've been talking way too long without telling you guys something scary, so let's get into our next encounter. In the quiet town of Campos dos Goitacazes, located in the northern part of Rio de Janeiro state, lived two men whose lives were intertwined by profession and a shared curiosity about the unknown. Manuel Pereira de Cruz, approximately 48 years old, was a dedicated family man. Married with children, he was respected in his community for his diligence and his responsibility. His friend and colleague, Miguel José Viana, around 32 years old, was known for his intelligence and inquisitive nature. Also married, Miguel was regarded as a studious individual. Together, they owned a small electronics repair business, catering to the increasing demand for radio and television services in a rapidly modernising Brazil. On August 17, 1966, Manuel and Miguel informed their families that they were embarking on a trip to Sao Paulo. They told their families that they needed to go on this trip to purchase electronic equipment and a used car for their business, a venture that required a substantial financial investment. Miguel carried with him 2.3 million cruzeiros, a significant sum at the time, underscoring the seriousness of their mission. However, instead of heading south to Sao Paulo, the two men boarded a bus bound for Niterói, a city situated across Guanabara Bay from Rio de Janeiro. This unexpected change in destination was not communicated to their families, leaving their true intentions shrouded in mystery. Arriving in Niteroi at around 2:30 p.m, the men began a series of peculiar activities that would later puzzle investigators. Their first stop was at Casa Sao Paulo, a local clothing store where they purchased 2 identical waterproof raincoats. The day was bright and clear, with no indication of rain, a detail that made this purchase unusual. The shopkeeper later recalled that nothing seemed out of the ordinary aside from the impracticality of buying raincoats on such a sunny day. Shortly thereafter, they may have visited an electronics store, as suggested by a crumpled note found among their belongings. At approximately 4:30 p.m, they entered Bar do Silva, a modest establishment frequented by locals. There they purchased a single bottle of mineral water. America da Costa distinctively remembered the men. Miguel appeared particularly nervous, constantly checking his watch. It was as if he was late for an important meeting. They requested to keep the bottle after drinking, which was unusual due to the bottle's deposit system in place at the time. They also asked for a receipt, a formality seldom observed for such minor purchases. These details, seemingly trivial, would later become crucial pieces of the puzzle. With the mineral water and a package, presumably containing the raincoats in hand, Manuel and Miguel set off towards Morro de Vintém, also known as Vintém Hill. Witnesses recalled seeing them walking along the road leading to the hill, but there was no indication that they were accompanied by anyone else. Vintém Hill was known for its rugged terrain, dense vegetation and steep paths. It was not a common destination for casual hikers, especially as the day waned. The hill offered panoramic views of Niteroi, but it was also a place associated with solitude. As the men began their ascent, the sun dipped lower in the sky. What drove them to climb this isolated hill at such an hour remains one of the many unanswered questions surrounding their story. August 20th, 1966. An 18-year-old boy named Jorge da Costa Alves was flying a kite on Vintém Hill. As the kite drifted beyond his control, Jorge ventured deeper into the hillside to retrieve it. Amid the underbrush, he stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him for years. A scene that defied explanation. There, lying side by side on the grass, were the bodies of the 2 men. They were dressed immaculately, in formal suits, white shirts and ties. Over their attire, they wore the new waterproof raincoats. Most strikingly, each man had a homemade lead mask covering his eyes. Crude devices resembling sunglasses, but without any openings. Shaken, George ran back to alert the authorities. Due to the challenging terrain and the onset of darkness, the police were unable to reach the site until the following day. When investigators arrived, they meticulously documented the scene. The bodies showed no signs of trauma or struggle. Their personal belongings included wallets with money, watches, and other valuables, all untouched, effectively ruling out robbery as a motive. Near the bodies, several curious items were found. Item number 1, an empty mineral bottle, matching the one purchased at Bar do Silva. Item number 2 and 3, 2 wet towels. The purpose, undetermined. Item number 4, a small notebook containing instructions written in Portuguese, and finally a receipt for raincoats. The note in the notebook became the focal point of the investigation. The translated instructions read, 4:30, be at the agreed place. 6:30, swallow capsules. After effect, protect metals. Wait for signal mask. The precise timing and specific actions described suggested a planned and deliberate course of events. The lead masks themselves were perhaps the most baffling aspect of the case. Made from sheets of lead commonly used for radiation shielding, they were cut crudely into the shape of sunglasses but lacked eye holes. Their purpose was unclear. Some speculated that the masks were intended to protect the men from radiation or intense light during an anticipated event. Others believed that they were part of a ritualistic practice. The mention of protect metals in the note added to the mystery. It suggested that the men were concerned about safeguarding metallic objects, perhaps electronic devices, from some form of interference or contamination. As the news of the strange death spread, the police sought to unravel the mystery by delving into the men's backgrounds. Interviews with family members, friends and colleagues painted a picture of two men deeply interested in spiritualism and the occult. They were known to participate in a local group focused on scientific spiritualism, attempting to bridge the gap between science and metaphysical phenomena. They had engaged in experiments aimed at contacting extraterrestrial beings or communicating with spirits using electronic equipment. There were even reports that they had attempted to build a device to capture psychic energy or receive signals from other planets. Some acquaintances expressed concern over their activities, noting that the men had become increasingly secretive and consumed by these pursuits. The investigation faced significant challenges. The autopsies, conducted by Dr. Aster Pereira dos Santos at the Instituto Médico Legal in Rio de Janeiro, were delayed due to bureaucratic hurdles and resource limitations. By the time the examinations were performed, the bodies had deteriorated significantly from the hot, humid climate. Crucially, no toxicology analysis was conducted. The internal organs were too decomposed, and they were not preserved for any future testing. This oversight left a critical gap in the understanding of the cause of death. Without evidence of physical trauma, the possibility of poisoning or drug overdose became a central theory. The cryptic note and peculiar circumstances gave rise to numerous theories. Some believed that Manuel Miguel had ingested psychoactive substances to facilitate a spiritual or extraterrestrial encounter, leading to accidental poisoning. Others suggested they were conducting experiments involving radioactive materials, necessitating the use of lead masks for protection. But then the precise instructions and timing hinted at ritualistic practice, possibly aimed at achieving higher consciousness or contacting other realms. And then, if you could believe it, things got even stranger. Several witnesses claimed to have seen Manuel Miguel in the company of an unknown individual prior to their deaths. Descriptions were vague, and efforts to identify this person were unsuccessful. The possibility that a third person was involved, whether as a collaborator or deceiver, added another layer of complexity to this case. Also, around the time of the deaths, local residents reported sightings of strange phenomena in the skies above Vintém Hill. A woman by the name of Gracinda, along with her children, claimed to have seen an oval-shaped object emitting blue rays hovering over the hill. Others described bright lights and unusual aerial movements. But what if I told you that there was a similar case that had happened 4 years prior? In 1962, a man was found deceased in the same region with a lead mask nearby. The circumstances were equally mysterious, and the case remained unsolved. Was this a recurring pattern or some sort of ritual gone wrong? Despite the efforts of the authorities, the investigation reached an impasse. The lack of concrete evidence, coupled with the missed opportunity for toxicology analysis, left critical questions unanswered. Police eventually closed the case, citing insufficient evidence to determine the cause of death or to establish any criminal involvement. For the families of Manuel and Miguel, the lack of closure was a really painful reality. The story of Manuel and Miguel did not fade into obscurity. Instead, it became an enduring mystery that captured the imagination of people both in Brazil and around the world. Over half a century has passed since that fateful August in 1966. The world has changed dramatically. Yet the tale of the lead masks is a story that refuses to be forgotten. Perhaps one day new evidence will surface, or somebody will piece together the fragments in a way that brings clarity. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scary. Let me know what you thought about this episode, and if you have any theories yourselves on what happened to these two men. You can discuss the episode on our Facebook supergroup, and you'll find the link in this episode's show notes, or you can maybe write in the comment box of your podcast provider. And don't forget, you can support the show by simply telling a friend or writing a nice review. It helps with the algorithm and gets the podcast out there. Join me next time for another episode of Scary.
It's homecoming season at HBCUs, when generations of alumni come together to celebrate Black culture and community. State Farm honors the strength of those communities and legacy, pride, and unstoppable energy of the HBCU family. That's why State Farm agents are committed to helping you choose the coverage you need so you can protect the things that matter most. And that's something to celebrate too. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.